Rembrandt was a master in the art of oil painting, but what techniques did he employ to create his masterful etchings? During my trip to his house in Amsterdam, I had the opportunity to record video of a rare demonstration featuring the techniques that he developed to create his prints. The methods I witnessed during the demonstration reminded me of some of the techniques he employed for his oil paintings. Was Rembrandt borrowing etching techniques to develop his oil paintings? Find out the answer as we tour Rembrandt's House Museum and discover the artist's printmaking techniques. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe to receive future notifications from my live presentations. Rembrandt created around 300 etchings from 1625 to 1665. He produced both paintings and etchings simultaneously throughout his life. He started his etching career while he was still in the city of Leiden. Once he moves to Amsterdam, Rembrandt begins to work on smaller and sketchier works. Rembrandt created most of his famous prints in this house between 1639 and 1658. As I toured Rembrandt's house, I visited his printmaking studio and had the opportunity to record a video featuring the artist's etching techniques.
And so this is an etching plate, an etching plate. It's made out of copper, usually, and it has some kind of engraving on it. The first technique is this is called a burin, or an engraving needle. It has a sharp, feet-shaped tip, and I will not ruin this plate, but I will show you the motion so you can be familiar with it as well. Normally you would have a cushion underneath your wrist as well to support your wrist. And what you would do with this is you would really dig into the copper plate, like so. And as you can imagine, because it's still a metal plate, it's hard, it has a lot of resistance, there's almost no room for mobility, right? It's very hard to turn around. And as you're digging into the copper plate, you're actually scooping, because it's a face-shaped needle, you're scooping pieces of very small curls of copper on the top right here. And so I'll show you the impression. The result is a very straight, very fine and controlled line, as shown right here. And then we've got a second technique. It's done with a metal needle. This is called the dry point needle technique, or this is a dry point pen, dry point needle. And the dry point needle has a very sharp tip. It's fairly heavy. And what I'm doing with this is I'm actually also going into the copper plate, but more kind of like scratching on top of it, like this.
Okay.
And so the difference between the burin and the dry point needle is with the dry point needle I'm scooping, I'm digging into the copper and scooping out copper curls out of the plate. And with the dry point needle, instead of digging out the copper, I'm pushing the copper to the side, like this, which creates brambles alongside the lines. And it's very difficult to see with the naked eye where those brambles are. But those brambles are minuscule, sharp, metallic edges where the ink can flow into. It's very different. It's very soft, it's very velvety. It's a very expressive line that you create with a dry point needle. But it's a very rough technique, right? You're really wearing out your copper plate. So as you can imagine, digging into the copper plate or scratching on top of it, still a lot of resistance, takes a lot of strain on your wrists, right? If you do it for a long time. So the third technique, and this is kind of the easiest technique, you have a lot of control with this technique, is with an etching needle. So this is, it's called the etching technique, so the etching needle. The first thing that you might have noticed is the color. It has a black etching background on top of it, still copper. And the etching background consists of bitumen, which holds asphalt roads together. Bitumen, beeswax, I think I have to explain this one. And tree resin. So this is from a pine tree. And so the mixture of these three is a very soft mixture. As you can see, I'll demonstrate. It's very easy. It takes minimal to no effort to draw lines on top of it. And you can also easily just make circles, go around corners. It's a very easy technique. You have a lot of control in the etching technique.
As I listened to the information shared by the artists on staff, I was reminded of some of Rembrandt's techniques that involve scratching into wet paint layers to expose underlayers of color and bring out details in his paintings.
A small layer of the etching background. And since I'm only removing a small layer of the etching background, the lines aren't deep or steep enough for the ink to fill into, right? So with the etching technique, you need a second step. And this involves creating a lot of beeswax and creating like airtight pockets on the edges of your etching plate, and then filling it up with an acid. But the acid would be aggressive enough to bite into the copper itself, but wouldn't be aggressive enough to bite the mixture away. So everywhere where the etching background was would be still protected, and everywhere where we exposed pieces of copper or parts of copper by clawing lines on top of them, it would be bitten into. And so depending on how long you let the acid sit for, you can get the deeper lines will become, right? And you can get up to 100 impressions with the etching technique. So this is etching ink. If you've been to the demonstration downstairs, you know what the oil paint was made from. This is exactly the same. The only difference is also with linseed oil and black, he used bone black, right? And this is linseed oil. The only difference is downstairs they would use fresh linseed oil, and this one is very robust, very thick, as you can see. And if I leave it for too long, it gets very rubbery as well. And so this is also made from linseed oil, and this is a very extreme example. But this is old linseed oil, which is a lot more thick than the fresh linseed oil you've seen downstairs. And this one it's still quite soft. You can still press it, but it won't come out of the face anymore. So this is a very extreme example. It's a few stages or phases before this phase right here that he would mix his pigment with.
Another important detail relating to the art of painting mentioned during the demonstration was the use of an aged oil or stand oil to make the plate ink. Artists from this time mixed bone black with a viscous oil to print the etchings. Most likely, Rembrandt borrowed the knowledge from printmaking to manipulate the viscosity of his paints to create visual textural effects.
That all of the lines have been filled up with ink, I'm going to use this tool right here. And this tool right here is called a dabber. So this is a modern dabber. And this is called a dabber because the movement that I'm doing right now is dabbing the ink into those lines. Like so. As you can imagine, if I just made an impression just like this, it would just be a black smudge and you couldn't tell anything apart from each other. I'm going to use this tarlatan, this cheesecloth, or also known as a linen gaze, to clean up the rest of my plate.
This process of wiping excess ink off the plate also reminded me of the way Rembrandt used deep dark glazes in his paintings to bring out the texture of the paint and to create atmosphere and unity.
And so at this stage you can be fairly aggressive, but do not put too much pressure, otherwise I'm still going inside of those lines and soaking up all of the ink, which is the last thing that I want right now. So I'm going to try to clean this up very well, make a very nice. This last step is not mandatory, so I'm going to make a very clean impression. So it's not better if you skip this, it's not better if you do this, it's just your what result you want it to be. So I'll use a little bit of chalk, crushed up chalk, in the base of my hand, and this is why the base of my hand has a lot of ink on it as well. I'll just dip it inside of the chalk, clean it off, and then hit my plate very gently with the base of my hand. And this will make sure that all of the excess leftover ink on the surface that my tarlatan couldn't get would be removed. And this will accentuate all of those lines, make it more defined, more detailed. Alright, so this is what it looks like right now. The exciting part, this is where the magic happens. I'll have to put it down in one fluid motion, and I hope it's straight enough. Spin the wheel. One copper plate, or etching plate I should say, can have, right? This one is very moody, very orange.
The final prints clearly demonstrated the different techniques that Rembrandt employed to create a sense of light and atmosphere in his prints. The demonstration helped me to create a better understanding of Rembrandt's genius as an experimental etcher and painter. It seems that Rembrandt used every tool at his disposal to push the boundaries of his art. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out my online courses in the description below, dedicated to the drawing and painting techniques of the old masters.